Okay, let's take a look at this. This is from Skip Bayless, admitted Browns hater, if you will. And Skip tweets out, if the Browns sign Clowney, they become legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Mr. Skip is one of the guys who believes Clowney is still very, very talented. And Skippy points out that he recently just turned 28 years old, all of which is true. It's just kind of interesting that a guy that seems to like tweaking Browns fans and all of the dog pound coming out and saying Clowney would make them Super Bowl contenders. What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, they are already pretty close to being Super Bowl contenders. I mean, if you can get to the playoffs and you can win a playoff game and get down into the final 8 and then improve your team in the offseason, then you are already a Super Bowl contender. But I do think that Jadeveon Clowney would help them and would add to the talent that they have on defense. I think he'd make a really nice 1-2 punch with Takk McKinley over there in place of Olivier Vernon. I don't necessarily think that he's going to shift the balance of power in the AFC North, but I think he would help. Again, he is an elite run defender. I think he'd really help against the Lamar Jacksons and the Kyler Murrays of the world when it comes to kind of containing those guys and setting the edge. So I like the move. I hope they do it at the right price. I think it would be great. I don't necessarily think that, that it's going to rock the whole NFL, but I think it would help the Browns.
Yeah, that's very fair. The other thing to keep in mind about this roster, it's really young. That's what is the beauty of where the Browns stand roster-wise. They have guys that are, for the most part, are still ascending and have not reached their peak years. So they made that playoff run with a roster that if you just leave it the same and leave it in the same system is going to get better by the nature of being in the same system for 2 years in a row.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you just look at the offense alone. It really didn't come alive until midway through last season. So now they'll hit the ground right from the start. Should be significantly better, especially if Odell comes back healthy and, they find other new and creative ways to utilize different guys on the offense. I think the future is very, very bright with this offense. I think it'll be explosive right from the start. I think they'll go out knowing that they can score 30 points, 35 points anytime they want to. And I think that, I think that it looks really good for them on both sides of the ball from an age standpoint.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about what Andrew Berry has done is he's given longer-term contracts to younger guys, their second contracts, if you will, when players are hitting their prime. And that has been, part of the idea behind building this. Draft well and develop young players.
Absolutely. Now, having said that, and we've talked about this before, they're not super young at receiver right now, and we know that. We know that Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, they'll be 29 for much of this season, and then next year, obviously, then they'll be turning 30, both of them, in November. So I do think you have to start to look towards the future at that position sooner than later, but for the most part, it's a roster that has a core of players in the prime of their career, and that's exactly what you want.